Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we got another off-season preview video here to discuss looking at the Islanders and the Winnipeg Jets. What went wrong for them and why they'd be eliminated from the playoffs? We'll look at their UFAs, RFAs, and draft capital for this upcoming off-season. We'll look at 5 ways they can improve so they can get back to the playoffs and maybe go on a bit of a deeper run next year. We'll get to all of that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Internet Talking channel. Before we get into this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for your support. I don't know what to do without you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. We're so close to 300 subscribers, and don't forget to comment down in the comment section below so I can all discuss in today's video. Now, as usual, I'm going to do another off-season preview video here to discuss talking about the New York Islanders and the Winnipeg Jets, the third and fourth teams who are eliminated from the playoffs. For the Islanders, they lost at the hands of the Carolina Hurricanes in 5 games. For the Winnipeg Jets, they lost 4 in a row and lost in 5 games to the Colorado Avalanche. So both teams did not do overly good, losing 4 straight. So it was really bad stuff there for the Islanders and the Jets. So we'll look at both of these teams and figure out how they can improve in the offseason. So first, for the Islanders, 3 reasons why I think the Islanders were eliminated by the Carolina Hurricanes. 1, lack of scoring. We know this is a problem for the Islanders all the time. The Islanders can't score goals. They even got away from their defensive game a little bit, but contending with the Carolina Hurricanes team that has Svechnikov, Aho, Gensel, Teravainen, Jarvis, Natchez. I mean, they have so many good offensive weapons, while the Islanders had one really good line of Nelson, Barzal, Horvat. And then Palmieri has been able to chip in really good offensively this year too. Besides that, they haven't really had very much on the offensive side of the mark this year. So the lack of scoring, especially on the depth side of things, was a major reason in my opinion as to why this Islanders team got eliminated by the Hurricanes. Just they can't compete with the Hurricanes scoring-wise. Second was the goalie issues with Sorokin. The Islanders rode the hot hand of Varlamov down the stretch, so Sorokin didn't even get the stretch run. Varlamov got the first 2 games with New York. They lost. It wasn't bad losses, but they did wind up losing. So they went to Sorokin. This was Sorokin's chance to sort of steal this crease back for him, get some good games and help this team win a couple of games. And after the period and a half, he was pulled. So Sorokin was a no-show in this thing, and Sorokin's usually an X-factor for that team, and now he lost the starting job to Varlamov. So I think the goalie issues with Sorokin, with him not playing overly well down the stretch and in the playoffs, was a major reason for why the Islanders team is the playoffs. Usually Sorokin's the backbone of that team, with him not even being in the lineup, that really did hurt them. And last was a bad penalty kill. I mean, their penalty kill was hovering at around 66.7%, and as according to this video, it's one of the worst in the playoffs. So it is really bad in the penalty kill situation there for the Islanders, and it definitely didn't really help the Islanders giving up a power play goal every 3 times they took a penalty. So yeah, penalty kill was extremely poor in this series, and that was another reason, in my opinion, as to why the Islanders team to the playoffs. So, in my opinion, the lack of scoring, they can't keep pace with this team like Carolina's scoring depth. The goalie issues with Sorokin not playing overly well this year, and the penalty kill, which is extremely bad, were the 3 main reasons, in my opinion, at least, as to why the Islanders team is the playoffs. Going over to pending UFAs, RFAs, and draft capital for this upcoming offseason for the Islanders. UFA-wise, not overly significant. There's quite a few UFAs, but there's none who are going to be majorly impactful to that team. I have Kyle Hellebuyck, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points in 82 games. Matt Martin, who had 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points in 57 games. Both are decent bottom 6 forwards. I could see one maybe be brought back, but I think there's a very likely chance to one, or maybe even both, are let go, so I'll have to understand that. Otto Koivula, who's been a really good call-up option, didn't play at the NHL level this year, had no points in no NHL games. I could see him be brought back. He's a decent bottom 6 forward, spare forward, but I could see him be moved on too. You also have Mike Riley, who they claimed off of waivers, had 6 goals, 18 assists, 24 points, 61 games, doing quite well with the New York. So as long as the money's right, I wouldn't be overly surprised if the Islanders brought him back as like a solid 6th, 7th defenseman. Then you have Sebastian Aho, who had 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points in 58 games. Decent third-pair defenseman. Could see him leave, especially given how low usage he's been able to get into over the past couple of years, but I think there's a very likely chance he could stay too. Then you also have Robert Bortuzzo, who had no points in 27 games, was acquired from the St. Louis Blues. I could see him be brought back as a solid 7th defenseman. I could also see him leave. Then you also have Robin Salo, who has no points and no games played. I could see him be brought back. He's a bit of a younger defenseman. I could also see him be moved on, so I'll have to wait and say on that. If you look at the pending RFAs, there's very few RFAs on this list. You have Ruslan Iskakov, who had an assist in 1 game of NHL action this year. Iskakov looks like a very fantastic future top 9 forward, so I think they'll definitely keep him. You have Curtis McLean, who got into some NHL playoff action, had 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points in 32 NHL games. Looks like he could be a new 4th line center for that team if they do end up moving on from Staszikas. So I definitely think that McLean could be a really good player there, so I definitely expect him to be brought back. You know, Simon Holmstrom actually didn't have too bad of a season, putting up 15 goals and 25 points in 75 games. Could definitely be doing a little bit better and was healthy scratched at times. But I think Holmstrom has a very good future as like a top 9 forward, a goal scoring top 9 forward. I think he could fit in really well with the Islanders, so I think they will keep him. And then you have Oliver Wahlstrom, who had 2 goals for us at 6 points in 32 games. It doesn't look overly good right now in New York, so I wouldn't be overly surprised if they traded him instead of signing him, so we'll have to wait and see on that one, but I wouldn't be overly surprised if Wahlstrom was dealt. But those are the RFAs. I think the current draft capital for the New York Islanders, they have 5 picks for this upcoming draft. They have their own 1st and 2nd, and their own 4th, 5th, and 6th, so they have no 3rd, no 7th for this upcoming draft, but like we said, they do have their own 1st and 2nd, and they do have their own 4th, 5th, and 6th, so not overly bad. There are teams that are worse than the Islanders, but they don't have an abundance of draft picks, so that's really bad stuff there for the Islanders. And lastly, going over to 5 ways I can see this Islanders to improve to get better for next year. First, they need to add a couple of top 6 forwards. I mean, we just talked about this. The main reason, in my opinion, why this Islanders team wound up being eliminated by the Hurricanes was because they can't contend with the Islanders scoring-wise. And I know they've been trying to rectify that for a lot. They got Horvat last year, you know, trying to figure out some ways to work around. They just know they need some more top 6 forward help. I personally mentioned they should go after Mitch Marner, even if it costs them a guy like Pelech or Pulak. I think that would be a fantastic pickup there for the Islanders if he's available to go after Mitch Marner. There's a couple of other guys out there who could definitely be moved. Would they go after a guy like Andrew Mangiapane from Calgary? Could they go after Logan Couture from San Jose if he's available? Fraser Market, could they go after Barabanov? Could they go after Toffoli? Could they go after Duchesne? Could they go after Marchessault? They need to go out and get a top 6 for it. There's no other way around it. They need more scoring on this team, especially in the top 6, especially with Horvat and Barzal. Can't have those 2 being their main weapons offensively. So I think they need to go out this offseason and get a top 6 forward. 2, they need to get younger. This team is one of the more older teams in the NHL. They need to start getting a little bit more younger. Now, their defense isn't overly old with Pelech and Pulak, who are not overly old. Then you got younger defensemen like Dobson and Romanov, who are still almost RFAs. So you've got a little bit of a younger defense core, but the forward group, I mean, they have a whole bunch of players on the forward group who are over 30 years old. So I think they need to add some more youth to that team. The problem is they don't have a lot of youth coming up in that system. I mean, like we said, they have Iskakov, who could be a top 9 forward at one point. Holmstrom starting to fit in really well as like a top 9 forward. Besides that, they don't really have a whole bunch of really elite level forward talent. I mean, maybe there's a couple guys who could still fit in as forward talent on the forward group and their prospect pool, but there's not a whole bunch. So drafting a couple of pieces, really good. Maybe moving a couple of pieces to get some more younger players could be really good. So not exactly sure what they're going to do, but this team needs to get younger. Some teams it's easier because they have pieces, but for the Islanders, don't have a lot of really young pieces, so they're going to need to find a way to get younger. 3, I think they need to consider moving some pieces. That includes Palmieri, Lee, Nelson, Wahlstrom, or Pageau. Now, Pageau, I think has this year plus 2 more seasons left at a $5 million cap hit. He's being overpaid as like a 3rd line center in New York, so I definitely think they would want to move on from him. You have Palmieri, who's entering the final year of his deal at a $5 million cap hit. After the season he had this year, I think there would be some teams interested in a guy like Palmieri, and I wouldn't be overly surprised if the Islanders were even willing to retain some money to make it happen. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but I could definitely see Palmieri be moved. You got Nelson, who's entering the final year of his deal at a $6 million cap hit. I would hold off of moving him, given the fact that the Islanders really like his goal scoring production. He's one of the really only 3 or 4 guys on the Islanders team who can score. So I would definitely try and keep Nelson, not move him, but he's also in the final year of his deal, so I could see potentially them moving him. You have Anders Lee, who has not looked out overly well this past couple of years. 2 seasons after this year, left on his contract at a $7 million cap hit. Could see him be a buyout candidate, that's a possibility, but I could also see him be moved to another team where they have some cap space to do so, so not exactly sure what happens, but I could definitely see it happen. And then you have Oliver Wahlstrom, who is, like we just talked about, not looking overly good as an RFA. I could definitely definitely see him be moved for a decent return if they could get it. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but I definitely expect Wallstrom to be moved. Extension for Dobson, something else I have to consider. Dobson's been a fantastic defenseman. He's having a Norris level season this year. He's starting to morph into number one defenseman the Islanders need. He's going to be eligible for an extension this offseason, so I think they need to try and get him extended. He's a fantastic piece of that top four. He's running on to a really elite level defenseman, and I think if they don't sign him, they're going to run the risk of having some major contract disputes next year. So we'll have to wait and see on that. And lastly, they need to add an experienced bottom pair defenseman. Now, they've had a lot of younger defensemen on that bottom pair this year. Salo, Aho, Bolduc. There's a couple of really good defensemen they've had over on that third pair. But I think they could probably benefit from adding another veteran. Not exactly sure who they would try and target. But there are a couple of really good veteran defensemen, especially in the free agent market, that I think could definitely work for New York Islanders. And I think they would benefit a ton from adding something like that. So I'll have to wait and see exactly what happens there. But I think if they added another experienced bottom pair defenseman, they would be in a much better place than they are right now. So that's my opinion on the New York Islanders. Those are the three reasons why I think they were eliminated by the Carolina Hurricanes. Those are the pending UFAs, RFAs, and draft capital for this upcoming offseason for the New York Islanders. And those are the 5 ways I can see this Islanders team improve this year to get better for next year and go on more of a deep playoff run. Next, going over to the Winnipeg Jets. For the Winnipeg Jets, they were not like the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders were third in the Metro. There was a wide gap between them and the Hurricanes. Everyone was picking the Hurricanes to win in like 5, 4, 6 games. I picked them in 6. They wound up winning in 5. So I don't think the Islanders losing in the first round is too surprising. But the Jets are. I mean, I picked them to go all the way to the Cup final and win their first ever Stanley Cup. The Jets were my Cup final pick, but they wound up winning the first game in quite high scoring fashion, and then they lose 4 straight. That did not look overly good for the Winnipeg Jets. So yeah, I was expecting a longer series, and I was expecting the Jets to win, and that never happened. So what went wrong for the Winnipeg Jets? Well, 3 reasons why I think they were eliminated by the Avalanche. One, Hellebuyck disappeared. I mean, the Vezina Trophy winning goaltender, the William N. Jennings Trophy winning goaltender vanished. I mean, the Avalanche were able to score 5 goals in each and every game against the Winnipeg Jets. Hellebuyck, when he's playing on his game, you don't usually see that. Usually there's going to be a game or two in there at least where you can have him stop most of them, and he keeps the Avalanche to like 1, 2, maybe 3 goals. But he was able to let him 5 game after game after game. That was awful in my opinion from Hellebuyck. I know Hellebuyck said that he didn't think he played his worst, but that was a really, really bad series there for Hellebuyck, and he just disappeared. And I think that was the major reason as to why Hellebuyck was a major part into why that Jets team did so well this year. And when he disappeared, the Jets disappeared. So, in my opinion, that was the main reason as to why the Jets team missed the playoffs. Second was scoring dried up. In the first game, they had a really good scoring depth. I mean, Connor scored a couple of goals, Lowry scored a couple of goals, Shafley had some offensive output. They actually did really good offensively in the first game, but then it completely evaporated. I mean, there was no scoring. They brought in guys like Toffoli, like Monahan to help them scoring. And I know Toffoli, I think, scored twice in the playoffs too, but this offense did not look like the offense that was in the regular season for the Winnipeg Jets. And that was a major reason as to why this team missed the playoffs, because even if Hellebuyck's a little bit shaky, you expect this team to score a little more goals, especially against Georgiev, who is not the best goalie in the NHL, and they could not find a way to figure out Georgiev. So, in my opinion, their scoring drying up. That's another reason, in my opinion, as to why this team missed the playoffs. And 3, their defense and PK sucked. I mean, there's no blunt way to put it. I mean, besides Hellebuyck, this team was a structured defensive team in the regular season. They know how to defend, and against the Avalanche in the playoffs, that completely disappeared, even with Hellebuyck. I mean, to some extent, that was Hellebuyck too, but on top of that, I mean, they completely went away from their defensive game and defensive structure in the playoffs, and their PK, I think, was 62.5%, which is tied for second lowest in the NHL right now. So, their PKs did not do overly well, and their defense did not do overly well. In my opinion, that was another major reason why the Jets team missed the playoffs. So, in my opinion, Hellebuyck disappearing was a major blow to the Jets team, on top of having no scoring answer for the Avalanche, and on top of having a defense and a PK that completely was bad. Those are 3 main reasons, in my opinion, as to why the Jets team wound up being eliminated from the playoffs by the Colorado Avalanche. So that's my opinion on the Jets and why they were eliminated. Going over to pending UFAs, RFAs, and draft capital for this Jets team for this upcoming offseason. For the UFAs, they have Christian Reichel, who had no points, no NHL games, decent call-up option, could see him be brought back, but could see him be leaving. And then you also have 2 in-season acquisitions Forward Sean Monahan, who had 26 goals, 33 assists, and 59 points in 83 games. And Tyler Toffoli, who had 33 goals, 22 assists, 55 points in 79 games. Toffoli with the Jets and the Devils, Monahan with the Jets and the Canadiens. Both were really good additions in the regular season. Both sort of faded a little bit in the playoffs. I could see them be brought back. They both fit in quite well with the Jets, but I could also see them both leave and try and find new help via free agency. So, not exactly sure which route they go, but Monahan and Toffoli are definitely UFAs. Meanwhile, on the defensive end, they do have a couple of really big defensemen. Dylan DeMello, who has been a really good top four defenseman for them. 3 goals, 28 assists, 31 points in 82 games. He's a UFA. Brendan Dillon, who has always been able to bring them into the fight over the past couple of years. He had 8 goals, 12 assists, 20 points in 77 games. He's a UFA. Colin Miller, who was an in-season acquisition from the New Jersey Devils, had 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points in 46 games. He's going to be a UFA, so it'll be interesting to see if the Jets are able to keep any of those 3 guys. Brossois is UFA, their backup goaltender. He had 23 games played this year, 927 save percentage, 2.00 GAA. Wouldn't be overly surprised if he was brought back with those numbers, but I could also see him leave. And then you also have Colin Delia, who didn't have an NHL game this year, but lives with a good third string, and I could see him be brought back. So we'll have to wait and see on that. If the teams RFAs, not a whole bunch here. You have Cole Perfetti, who had 19 goals and 38 points in 71 games. I still think he could be a really good, solid top 9 forward in the future, so I expect them to bring back Perfetti. You have David Gustafsson, who had 3 goals, 7 points in 39 games. I think Gustafsson could definitely be brought back as a solid bomb 6 forward. Then you have Kanazayev, who had 0 points in 0 NHL games. Could be a solid 7th defenseman. I could see him be brought back. You have Ville Heinola, who didn't play at the NHL level this year. No points, no games played. But I think he's a future 3rd, 2nd pair defenseman for this Jets team, so I expect him to be brought back. And then you have Logan Stanley, who had 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in 25 games. He requested a trade. I expect him to either not be qualified or to be traded at some point. So that's my opinion on the Winnipeg Jets. Draft capital for this Jets team, they only have 5 picks and only 1 in the first 3 rounds. So that's really bad for the Winnipeg Jets, given they wound up being eliminated from the playoffs. They have no first round picks. They have the Montreal Canadiens 2nd round picks, so they do have a high 2nd round pick. But then they have no 3rd round picks and their own 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. So they don't have any of their own 1st, 2nd, or 3rds, and they only have the Montreal Canadiens 2nd in the first 3 rounds. So that's really bad stuff there for the Jets, but still. They have their 5 picks. They do have a 2nd round pick, so it's decent. It's not the worst in the world, but still, it's not as great as it could be. So interesting stuff there for the Jets. And lastly, 5 ways I can see this Jets team improve in the offseason to get better for next year. 1, they have to rework their top 6. Now, like we said, Toffoli, Monahan, who made up 2/3 of their 2nd line in the playoffs, they're both UFAs. There's no guarantee those 2 guys come back. Ehlers, who was on the other side, is going to be to the final year's deal, and we'll talk about this in a second, but if he gets moved, that could be another hole in their top 6. Lowry is a really good center with Niederreiter and Appleton. You probably want to keep that as your 3rd line, so if that's true, then you're going to need some more working around on that top 6. I mean, you still have Velarde, Connor, Shafley, who are really good. I think in the future, you could have guys like Colby Barlow and Brad Lambert in that top 6, who I think that'll be really good, but for a time being, they need some more top 6 help, even if it's just in the short term. So, not sure if they'll go out to try and get guys like Mangiapane from Calgary, Vetrano from Anaheim, Hall from Chicago. Not sure if they try and target any of these guys, or if they go out on free agency and try and sign a really good, more experienced goal-scoring top 6 winger to like a 1 to 2 year deal. Not sure exactly what way they will go, but I definitely think there's a possibility out there that the Jets try and work their top 6, maybe move on from Toffoli and Monahan, and try and bring in some help. I think they need to consider moving Schmidt, Stanley, and Ehlers. Schmidt's going to be into the final year of his deal at a $5.95 million cap hit. He has not worked out very well as a healthy scratch a couple of times for the Winnipeg Jets, including in the playoffs. I think there's a likely chance Schmidt's no longer with the Jets next year. Stanley, we know he's requested a trade. He's a pending RFA. I don't think he wants to be in Winnipeg anymore, so I could definitely see Stanley be dealt, or at the very least, not be qualified and become a UFA. And Ehlers is a name that we've talked about a little bit recently. It's coming up a little bit. Did not look overly well in the playoffs, and I think the Jets could wind up getting some pretty good assets in return if they were to move Ehlers, given the fact he's in the final year of his deal. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens there, but I could definitely see Ehlers be moved, so we'll have to wait and see on that. 2, they need to get younger. I'm not exactly sure which guys they were trying to target to be brought up this year, but I expect Tainel on the defensive end to be a solid stud as like at least a 3rd pair defenseman this year. I think he deserves a regular look at the NHL level. You also have on the forward group Cheeberkov, who scored his first career NHL goal in that one game he played at the end of the season. I think he could be a really good top 9 forward. You have Brad Lambert, who looked really good in the AHL level. I could see him be brought up to the NHL level next year, at least on a small sample size. Chaz Lucius, who looks like a pretty good player. I think he could be brought on as like a solid top 9 forward. So not exactly sure who they bring in, but this Jets team needs to get younger. And I think adding guys like Cheeberkov, Lucius, Lambert, or Heinola would be a major improvement there for the Jets. They need to add some top 4D help, especially with guys like DeMello potentially moving, Dillon potentially moving as UFAs, Schmidt being potentially a trade chip. I think there's a very likely chance this Jets team does need to make some more additions on the top 4. They still have Pionk, who signed for another year. They still have Morrissey, who signed long term. Besides that, they don't really have any other top 4 level defenseman, at least at this point in time. So I think they need to try and add some more top 4 defensemen, whether that's via free agency with guys like Gossesbear or Tanev or something like that, or that's in the trade market with guys like Mario Ferraro or Jacob Chikrin or Rasmus Anderson. Not exactly sure who they target, but I think they need to add some more top 4D help. And lastly, they need to find a goalie backup for Hellebuyck. Brossoit could be leaving as a UFA this year. If they can retain Brossoit, then that's a problem solved. But if they don't retain Brossoit, they need to try and find a suitable backup who can play just like Brossoit did this year. So those are my opinions on the Winnipeg Jets. Those are 3 reasons why I think this team wound up being eliminated by the Avalanche. Those are pending UFAs, RFAs, and draft capital for this upcoming offseason for the Winnipeg Jets. And those are the 5 ways I can see this Jets team improve in the offseason to get back and better for next year so they can make a deeper run in the playoffs, definitely. But that's all I'm going to talk about for today. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of this down in the comment section below. What do you think about the Jets and the Islanders? Are you surprised by both these teams being eliminated so early on? Do you agree with me that those were the 3 reasons why those 2 teams wound up missing the playoffs? What do you think about the 5 ways I think those 2 teams can improve the offseason to get better for next year? And what do you think about the UFAs, RFAs, and draft capital for this upcoming offseason? Definitely. Let's hear your guys' thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's what I'm going to talk about for today. We're going to tell you this video, and if you're like it, remember to subscribe down below. Thank you all for your support, and I'll be able to love you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below, and don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below so someone else gets today's video. Also a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So if you check that out, leave it in the description below. And can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.